The community organizing group ACORN has come under a lot of scrutiny lately, and the New Mexico branch is no exception.
You know, we do all kinds of work around organizing for healthcare reform, immigrant rights, welfare rights, fighting predatory mortgage lending, and of course over the past year we've been doing a lot of election work, both the world's biggest voter registration drive and now a lot of work getting out the vote.
The Republican Party of New Mexico has been trying for years to shut down ACORN's election efforts. On October 16, 2008, Republicans held a press conference where they purported to present evidence that fraudulent voters registered by ACORN had cast ballots in the last primary election.
They named 10 voters, 9 of whom are Hispanic and 1 of whom is African American. So they only targeted minority voters. I think virtually all of them are new voters. So maybe around half are 18 or 19. 1 is a new citizen, a monolingual Spanish-speaking woman. These are voters who are sort of more easily intimidated.
The GOP distributed press packets that contained photocopies of the voters' registration forms.
Many of which were redacted, and redacted the Social Security numbers and the dates of birth, except in the case of 7 of those forms, the dates of birth were left unredacted. Now, under state law, it is a 4th-degree felony to use Social Security numbers from voter registration forms, number 1. And number 2, it's a 4th-degree felony to convey, copy, or use dates of birth from voter registration forms.
They took what they thought was obviously the most fraudulent registration form, enlarged it, and used it as a prop in the press conference.
They blew up a huge voter registration form as an example of ACORN's fraudulent voter registrations. And it was made out in the name of Duran, which the Republicans said was Duran Duran, as in the pop group from the 80s. They're seeing things through this racist prism where they didn't realize that Duran is actually a common Hispanic name here in New Mexico. If they had just done the simple legwork of picking up the phone, calling the voter, or stopping by the house, they would have found out as easily as some investigative reporter found out that this is a real person.
In fact, ACORN found that all the supposed frauds were real people and legitimate voters. They took that information to the press.
So because we did that, the Republicans then sent out a private investigator to the homes of 3 of these 10 smeared voters to try to intimidate them further.
Of course, these are people who probably have very little familiarity with the voting system, with their rights under the law, and so they welcomed this individual into their homes and tried to respond to his questions, but then found that they were being, as I say, interrogated. They were being investigated by whom they did not actually know, and so for many of them, I think it was a pretty upsetting situation.
Then came the lawsuits, one from the ACLU and one from the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund. The one from the ACLU names Republican State Legislator Justine Fox Young as one of its plaintiffs.
This is Justine Fox Young. Please leave a message.
Hi, Justine. Fox Young has not returned requests for comment. I also tried to talk to the party's public information officer, Shira Rawlinson, but no luck there either. The other lawsuit names Republican attorney Pat Rogers as one of the plaintiffs. He said he's having trouble getting his side of the story out, but was too busy to talk to me until after the election. Rogers has been gunning for ACORN for years and was named in a federal probe as one of the principal forces behind the firing of U.S. Attorney David Iglesias.
Our work here in New Mexico led to the U.S. Attorney David Iglesias being fired, basically, because the Republicans tried the exact same attack in 2004. And because the U.S. Attorney, David Iglesias, basically refused to prosecute ACORN because he quickly realized that these claims of voter fraud and conspiracy were completely unfounded, the Republicans, went to the White House and said, you've got to fire this guy.
If the GOP thinks that there's something amiss about that person's registration, then they have a responsibility to bring it to the Secretary of State's attention or to bring it to the county clerk's attention. But to take the investigation upon themselves, they set themselves up as vigilante voter police. And you know, this is the result of it.
You know, if it is indeed true that there are folks out there, you know, questioning the validity of registered voters, whether they should in fact be registered to vote, I do think that could be considered voter intimidation, and if it is found that, you know, such activity has occurred, you know, I think that it should be prosecuted.
Karl Rove has this famous aphorism, you know, the way to win is to accuse your opponent of doing something horrible and then do it yourself. And that's exactly what's going on here. They are accusing us of all kinds of fraud and attempts to steal the election in order to divert the attention on us while they go about trying to suppress the vote and do Lord knows what else to try to fix this election.